Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, as it turns out, as of late, there are a few things that are certain in life. Death, taxes, and the Maple Leafs getting crushed in the second period by the Montreal Canadiens for inexplicable reasons, and it was once again a horrible viewing experience for half of us watching here. Welcome into a crossover edition of Game Over Toronto, this time joined with Game Over Montreal. The Leafs and Habs decide that they wanted to play all of their games early in the season, so I have a lot of negative things to say about this game that somehow miraculously went to a shootout, but I'm also joined by someone who will be a lot happier about the result tonight, as I'm joined by Kay from Game Over Montreal. Kay, how are we feeling about whatever I just watched?
Relatively good, I guess. I'm not mad at it. I think there's some things to pick at, but overall, pretty good. And it's always nice. I think this is their first game in 11 games that they won in Toronto. So that's crazy. I have
Shocking.
no recollection of that. I have no recollection of that. So, pretty happy overall. It's hard to complain, I think. I will. Don't get me wrong. I will complain, but it's hard.
I also will complain. I was thinking back. I'm trying to think of when the last time the Habs would have won in Toronto. I'm assuming it would have had to been in the COVID season when they played like
It was
5
during the
games.
playoffs.
Oh, well, does that,
It's
like,
the
I guess
playoffs,
they're
that's
counting that one,
yeah.
or like regular season?
According to the broadcast, yeah.
I don't, because sometimes the broadcast does like only regular season versus only playoffs, but yeah, so been a while since Montreal. I guess probably the last regular season game they would have won in Toronto was probably the Kapanen you fucking idiot game. So it's
Which is very funny.
yeah,
Still one of my favorites. Still one of my favorites.
so it has not exactly been kind to the Habs playing in Toronto, which is surprising. They probably should have won last year's, or I guess it was 2023 when they were up by 2 with 4 minutes left. But we're not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about the present. So welcome in to Game Over, everyone. For those of you that are new here, and obviously there's going to be a lot more of you that are used to the Montreal side of things. So welcome in. Be sure to hit like, hit subscribe before we go ahead and get into things. I see some of you saying hi already. Some of the Toronto regulars, David, Luke, Matthew checking in, saying, well, variations of the Leafs suck, which, yeah, we also got some of the Habs fans in here saying hello. What is up, everyone? MFM that's not even a real name.
MFM.
MFM. The Habs stressed me out a bit in the third, but I'm happy with the result. And we get a Zach and Kay episode. Yep, everyone's favorite chaotic duo here from Game Over. We are Surely. I mean, we are the crackheads of this network, so whenever we come on, usually some bizarre things happen. But hello to all of the Montreal fans. I only slightly resent you this evening. So for those of you who are new here to the Toronto side of things especially, well, what I like to do with these shows is the first period, this is just going to be a general game recap, the what happened in this game. Second period rather, we're going to get into stories coming out of Montreal land, as this is a crossover episode, and we do have to take time to learn more about our friends in Montreal. Third period, we're going to check in with the Leafs and see how they're doing, which they were doing great until tonight, so we actually do have some positive things to talk about. And then in the fourth period, we will get to a Q&A. But for those of you who are regulars for both channels, you know that this is an interactive show that we run with you guys throughout. So feel free to drop your thoughts on the game, and we will get to you as we go on. So first of all, we got to start before the game recap here. Kay, but like 2 hours before the game, you messaged me, and you said that you had a horrible feeling about tonight. And you were very specific that it applied to both teams.
Yeah.
Before we get into how that went, what on earth was going through your head going into this game?
Well, first of all, let me just be very honest. Everything has made me really anxious lately, so I think I just had a reason to be anxious. So maybe that. But also causation, because last time I felt this way, something terrible happened. So that doesn't help. But going into the game itself, I was hoping for an honest effort from this team. Frankly, it has been a rather good stretch of games, I'd say. And going into Toronto, just They've been figuring some stuff out, in my opinion. So I was excited to see how it would go, and I think this is the first time I want to say that we've played Matthews this year, or maybe we have once before.
They would have played in the opener.
Yeah. So I think I was just looking forward to it because I think this was a more healthy Leafs team than we saw last time. So I was looking forward to seeing what they could do.
Certainly a much healthier Leafs team compared to 2 weeks ago. Matthews back, Nye's back, Nick Waugh back. A lot of important pieces up front back in the lineup. However, the Leafs are not healthy in net as Dennis Hildeby got the start in this one with Joseph Woll being placed on IR earlier today, which we will talk about later. Thankfully, for once, it seems like we actually have some certainty around that, so some good news there. We'll hopefully get Wool back next week, but this was also coming into this one, the 900th career game for Morgan Rielly. I don't have a ton of positive things to say about him, but I will say good job, or congrats to Morgan Rielly. That is an accomplishment, and he is going to push for like the Leafs all-time games played record. So good for him. He's going to keep pushing towards the 1,000 games, which he'll hit in the near future. And he did actually start this game with a pretty good chance after cutting to the middle, but he just missed the net, not able to get that one. The defensemen in this game were really struggling to hit the net for the Leafs, but we'll talk about that more later. I felt to the first 5 to 6 minutes, the Leafs were doing a decent job controlling the puck. They just really weren't getting a lot of danger with it. Strangely, in the first period, it felt like the Leafs and Habs it was a Freaky Friday situation where the Leafs seemed to have the puck a little bit more, but the Habs were getting the more dangerous chances, and especially getting those dangerous chances in transition. But Matthews, with a pure hustle play, outmuscles Slavkovsky to earn himself a backhand chance and draws a call. On the power play, Matthew Knies replaced with an actual defenseman. The Leafs abandoned the 5-forward unit, and the Leafs get some puck movement, but don't really do anything, and we can kind of get into this now because the Leafs power play stinks. So, from your perspective, Kay, because you obviously watch the Habs very intimately, was that do you feel like, were you feeling good about what the Habs PK was doing? Like, were they doing anything specific that you were a fan of, or were the Leafs just dog shit?
Listen, the Habs PK has been a cure for some dog shit power plays. So frankly, the fact that they managed to get out of this I was excited about that. This penalty kill has been struggling in a way I'm not used to because last season they had a great penalty kill. If the power play don't got me, the penalty kill got me, right? Like there's one of them got me. But this year it's been a little up and down with so much turnover. But something they did really well last season was they were really aggressive. They weren't just trying to kill the penalty. It felt like they were always trying to do something with the puck, rather than just get it out of their zone. And I saw some of that today, which I really liked. To be honest, I was just constantly nervous about, obviously, Auston Matthews is just such a great goal scorer. You always have to take him as a threat. But William Nylander, has this habit of completely dunking on the Habs. So I was waiting for him to do that. But I was happy with the way that penalty kill went. I thought that was it was a good sign. Unfortunately, the power play let them down later in the game, but hey, that's a later thing.
That's a later thing. We'll get into that. I will say the Habs penalty kill, with how aggressive they are, not just in the zone, but also in defending the entries and constantly pushing up ice and forcing the power play to make quick decisions, works against the Leafs very well because the Leafs are notorious for taking an eternity to do anything and make any sort of decision. Way too passive, and the Leafs are unable to capitalize there. Short while later, Caulfield gets a one-timer chance in transition. Kind of fans on it. Hildeby gets a bit of a glove on it. Seconds later, Suzuki also gets a chance from a prime shooting slot. Domi does enough to sort of disrupt that shot. So both of those shot attempts by the Habs from good areas, just not as clean as the shooters probably would have liked. Then Tavares gets a high sticking penalty against Dobson. On the power play, there was a couple of shots from the outside that weren't particularly dangerous. There was one real good chance for Caulfield on a one-timer, but once again, fanned on it. Caulfield, early on in this game, was struggling with the shots from the outside. He just could not corral the puck. It seemed like he was really fighting it early on. Hildeby made a nice toe save on Anderson on a one-timer in transition. Again, going back to the transition chances the Habs were getting early on in this one. Xhekaj knocks down Joshua, kind of a continuation from a few weeks ago. Joshua still wanted nothing to do with Xhekaj in this game, which much to my dismay. The Leafs, I was
keeping an eye out for that. I was possibly expecting something there, but
I was too, because Joshua has been playing really well as of late, and has been playing a lot more physical as of late. So I thought he would kind of, I don't know. I was hoping his ego was bruised after that last interaction with Xhekaj and that he would have a chip on his shoulder, but
he made a decision there. He assessed the situation and decided maybe that wasn't the place to step up a little bit.
Man, you're 6'5", 230. You should be able to at least hold your own. I don't care. So the Leafs, they were getting some good chances in the offensive zone where they were like the Habs were really collapsing in the D zone and allowing the Leafs defensemen to get a lot of looks, but the Leafs defensemen could not hit the net to save their lives in this one. Early on in the second, off of an icing, Nyes gets a deflection chance that just missed, and then sometimes I make myself laugh with the notes that I write, because the note I have here is Benoit and Myers fucking blow. Extended offensive zone time for the Habs, and Myers, after a 2-minute shift with no pressure, ices it for literally no reason. And then off that ensuing faceoff, the Leafs have the puck, they win the faceoff, and then are unable to clear the zone, leading to a 3-minute shift for the Myers and Benoit pairing. Just horrible. Thankfully, Hildeby makes a nice save to end that chance. It should have been bad. And I will note as well, a lot of the Habs' extended zone time in the second and third periods came against the Myers and Benoit pair. Those two were wholly awful in this game. It cannot be overstated. Stetcher gets a tripping penalty that I know some people were complaining about, but kind of a pure panic play off of a turnover in the defensive zone. And then on that power play, during the 6-on-5, I think it was Davidson, I want to say, had the great chance in front, or someone was looking for.
Yeah, I think it was his first. He was looking for his first, so that would make sense if it was Davidson.
And then on the 6-on-5, the Habs might have gotten away with it, too many men, but regardless, they go to the power play, and on that power play, in real time, what I saw was Demidov sending a rocket of a pass to the front of the net, and Cole Caulfield is able to tap it in backdoor. And then I see the replay, where Simon Benoit is in La La Land, just behind Slavkovsky, not particularly doing anything, kind of just hanging out behind him. Two Habs were on the doorstep ready to bury that chance. Simon Benoit decided that he was above doing his job on this rep. So aside from that, though, because I always like to contextualize, not every play or every goal against is a result of a bad play. This one probably was. However, the other team sometimes does good things as well.
It was a sick pass by Demidov too, I think. But I did look at it and I went, how did the Leafs let that happen?
No, not the Leafs. One guy.
Hey, it was just a moment where I was like, Cole Caulfield was sitting there at least for a second with the blade of his stick almost in the net, right? Like he's right there. Yuri Slavkovsky is right there. If Cole hadn't gotten it, I think there's a good chance that Slav would have gotten it. Like, it was, who are you covering at that point? Like, you didn't even choose a guy to cover. You just kind of chose like a spot on the ice to be more than anything.
Yeah, and Luke in the chat saying Benoit was distracted planning his next one-man rush. And for the Toronto listeners, you'll know I've said this before, but man, whenever Benoit has the puck especially, stop believing in yourself. You don't have it. It's really, I cannot stand this guy, and I can't wait for Tanev and Carlo to come back so we can get this guy out of the lineup, because, oh my lord, I despise watching him. I'd have to scroll up, but Matthew said, I like Mermis. I was surprised they took him out for Myers. Honestly, take Benoit out for Mermis at this point, because Mermis is better than both of them, so you got to get him back in the lineup. Those two stink, man. So the Habs take a 1-0 lead off that, and then that power play just, it was a combination of that power play really went to the Habs' legs, and similar to 2 weeks ago, one goal against, and the Leafs' energy just completely died. And the rest of the second period was, well, kind of a shooting gallery for the Habs once again. Seconds after, I just noted that the Leafs are getting careless with the puck. They had a weird change going on at the bench, allowed Demidov to get a partial break that gets turned away by Hildeby, and then a breakaway save against Bolduc where Hildeby absolutely robs him with the glove on just a... Matthews decided to go 1-on-3, but didn't realize that the defense were changing behind him, so Evans was able to spring Bolduc. Just super sloppy and careless play by the Leafs there. And then the funniest sequence of the game transpires, where Nylander draws a tripping on Noah Dobson.
That was so funny. That was so funny.
I will use the word tripping very loosely, only because that is what they called. But the generous interpretation is Nylander slipped. The cynical one is that Nylander took a dive. Regardless, I wasn't complaining because it went in the Leafs' favor. Although, on the ensuing power play, Mike Matheson and John Tavares are getting into it in front, and Tavares cross-checks him, and Matheson decides, you know what? What if I also just simply fall to the ice? Now, the one caveat...
To be fair, Matheson did kind of rope him into that one.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just one cross-check, it was several. And don't get me wrong, total dive.
But at least that one was intentional. Nylander just fell and drew a penalty. Matheson at least was like, you know what? I'm going to bait you into this and see if I can get the refs to call it back. And lo and behold, the refs owed them a call anyways. So full credit to Matheson.
Complain about something really quickly there?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. The broadcast, it's insane how we all know that this game is kind of not officiated well, because the broadcast kept being like, the Habs defensemen know that they have some leeway here because the penalty wasn't, the penalty that was called wasn't, so before Matheson got his penalty that he earned very well, they kept talking about how they were like, the defensemen have a little bit more wiggle room because the refs aren't going to call that. And then they said something about Nylander needs to be on his best behavior because the refs will be calling him. And it was this thing where I was like, how are we all talking about this like it's normal? How is this normal? When
the broadcast is actively telling the Habs defense to take liberties knowing that they aren't going to get called after a horrible call against... that is the state of this sport. And honestly, I fully agree. The Habs should have just come out on that penalty kill and started slashing everything that moved, cross-check everyone in the mouth. What are you going to do? You're going to call us again after you put us in this spot? It's this weird game of chicken that NHL players are allowed to play with the officials, where it's like, yeah, call it again. You're going to call it once. You're not going to call it twice. You're definitely not going to call it 3 times. And as Black Wolf says, I struggle to explain penalty calls to casual hockey watchers. Try to explain to a fan of any other sport that the players actively play this weird game where they know that penalties won't always be called. So once they get called for it once, they know they have a free pass the rest of the game. It's so stupid. Yeah. How does this...
so stupid.
I don't... how do you explain
Luke
that?
Says in the chat, Luke's the call on JT was hilariously bad. That wasn't a call, it was an apology. Yeah. It just doesn't need to be this way, I think, is my conclusion, is we can just call, but we can't call it by the book. And I think, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the broadcast was pointing this out, was before the face-off for that power play, the refs were giving it to Nylander. They were on him.
Which is so funny, because they just called the penalty, and they're like, hey, you got us. What do you mean? Nothing. There has been 0 seconds of play since that call happened. Honestly, I would not have blamed the refs at all if they just looked up at the scoreboard and were like, you know what? We actually made a mistake. That's not a penalty. What?
Yeah, it's so funny. It was just funny. I'm like, oh, this is not real. What are we doing?
It's ridiculous, man. And as Matthew says, refs don't game manage, they match fix. Well, they actually do game manage. The problem is their management style is stupid.
Is bad.
It's really dumb. Quek shows is saying, I was with some friends that don't watch hockey last week trying to explain them the code. The code and the way that refs are taught to officiate games, the logic is so skewed and backwards that anytime you think critically about it, it falls apart immediately. Like when you watch the game, we know as like hardcore hockey fans, we know what the deal is, right? We know that they're going to do a makeup call. Even if they didn't call the one against Matheson there on Tavares, they would have called a soft one on the Leafs at some point to make up for that. Yeah. And the fact that we could brace for that is a joke. It is absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Now, going to the third period, on the first few minutes, the Leafs had a couple of chances, but they were struggling to sustain pressure. The Leafs take a too many men call, and as you pointed out the Leafs really got their money's worth of that too many men, which they decided, the entire bench was like, hey, I want to be out on the ice right now. So really sloppy penalty by the Leafs. And then just the funniest sequence of events, the Leafs almost get a 2-on-1 shorthanded. And then on that 2-on-1, Steven Lorentz decides he wants to do a one-handed windmill against Juraj Slafkovsky, which predictably failed. But then moments later, Nick Waugh bats the puck down and springs Scott Laughton, who Noah Dobson decided he didn't feel like covering. And Laughton goes old school on the breakaway with a clap bomb and just rips it past.
How much I enjoyed that.
Rips it past Dobesh off the bar and in. Now, you were frustrated at a couple of Habs on this play in Kapanen and especially Dobson. I just have a simple question. What was Dobson's plan?
I don't know. I think he must have at that point. Like, there is no other reason, and even this isn't an excuse. But the only redeeming thing I can think of is he might have been at the end of his shift. But even then, it didn't look like he was trying very hard. Noah Dobson has been extremely good for us. Extremely good. That pairing has been absolutely vital to the success of this team. However, Noah, you have been making some decisions recently. I know Lars Eller cross-checked you in the head, and I don't want to say, causation correlation, but there's been some bad decisions that have been made since then. Now, we don't have spare defensemen for you to take time off, so heal your brain. Take the amulet. Take the amulet from JT.
And Domi. Yeah, Domi has it too.
Does he? That's hilarious. That's a great bit. Now I'm imagining Ty Domi also having an amulet, which would also be very funny.
I think every Leaf needs the amulet at this point.
Yeah, there was just some decision making happening there. Kapanen, it's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine-ish because he's so young. He's still a rookie. He's doing a lot for this team. But that power play 2 unit, the power play 1 unit has been getting so much better. It's been so fun, so exciting. I can't believe that this is the power play unit I get to watch. They're the fourth, by the way, for the Habs fans in the chat. I'm not sure if you guys have realized this, but they're the 4th best power play in the league, which is not how it feels. So that's just a fun fact. Anyways, my point being with how good the power play 1 unit is, it was just really disappointing to watch what the power play 2 unit did. Noah Dobson simply needs to be better there.
He needs to stop doing his best Evan Bouchard impression playing defense there.
Get his ass. Get his ass.
Well, what was he is positioned horribly and then doesn't hustle back once he's out of position. It was just it was very Bouchardian.
The hustling is the biggest issue I have there. Yeah. The positioning, sure, you need to be better, but the lack of hustle really bothers me more than anything.
Especially because Laughton teed up for a slap shot. You couldn't have tried to break that up at all. It was very funny to watch. But alas, the Leafs tie the game, despite the fact that they were being severely outplayed to that point. The first and third period were actually relatively fine, but the second period was so bad that the shot counter was just skewed the rest of the game. But regardless, the game is tied at 1, and then shortly after that, on a dump-in, Nick Waugh gets it to Easton Cowan, cross-crease to Dakota Joshua for a one-timer, or a quick shot after, and Dobesh gets across to rob him with his face. Not often you see a cross-crease face save, so good save by Dobesh there, and then a short while after that, Cowan to Joshua in front again. Joshua gets tied up, I believe, by Dobson, so he had quite the third period. Takes a penalty there. Did the Leafs do anything with it? Of course not, but they still got the opportunity. That was with 5 minutes to go. couple of chances, but both teams kind of towards the end of the game made business decisions, and we go to overtime. In overtime, the Leafs decided that they actually didn't want to play and started skating around for 3 minutes. Nylander did have a couple of really nice chances, including one on a 2-on-0, which I had kind of tongue-in-cheek posted before overtime. It would be a great time for Nylander to pull his classic don't do anything all game, then score the OT winner.
Yeah.
He tried, honestly. Like, I thought that was going to be cash money as soon as I saw the 2-0 happen. Regardless, the Leafs unable to convert on their chances. The Habs get a couple of chances. Slavkovsky had one. Caulfield had one. At the end of overtime, Suzuki had almost had one. And then I think Matheson had one or two. The Habs had a couple of chances, but Hildeby stood tall. So we go to the shootout.
He's very good.
Yeah, shout out Hildeby. The Hildebeest, the third goalie that is actually better than Stolarz so far. So I guess he's the second goalie for now. Regardless, we go to the shootout, which drew an eye roll for me because I despise the shootout, but I'm not allowed to complain about it too much because the Leafs lost. If they had won, I would be sounding off on the shootout because I would have been able to, but they lost, so I can't be too much of a piss baby here. So we go to the shootout. In the shootout, Nylander gets honestly robbed by Dobesh on that first shot. Caulfield buries. Texier buries with a low one-hand poke. I don't even know how to describe that move. Like, it's not quite a full one-hand. It's kind of just like letting the puck just glide into the net. I don't know. It's very visually. Something. Yeah, it's very visually appealing. Matthews did have one nice move, but Tavares was unable to bury the third shot. So the Habs win 2-1 in the shootout, not a real sport. BS hockey, not hockey. It's not hockey. And they pick up the second point. Although technically it's not even 2 points because a shootout win counts for less. So it's very stupid. Everything about the shootout is stupid. But the Habs win. And honestly, they deserve to win. The team that deserved to win the game won the game. So in the end, I'll just be grateful for the 1 point that the Leafs didn't deserve. So
I'll take it.
That is a very elongated game recap. So I'm going to turn us over to our second segment. A reminder, as always, if you're new here, to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And also, go check out the main Game Over Network channel. We have weekly trivia going on, hosted by Andrew Berkshire, sponsored by Spark. And throughout the month of December, we are going to be having World Junior Trivia. We do have prizes, so make sure you go check that out on the main Game Over Network channel on YouTube. Go like and subscribe and ring notification bells so you don't miss any of those trivia streams. They happen Wednesday at noon Eastern, I believe. So, in this second segment, this is more of kind of a not scouting the enemy because we already played the game, but kind of just a check-in on the Habs, which we've done a lot of these recently because the Leafs and Habs, like I said, this is their third meeting this year in the first 25-ish games. So, let's instead make this a what has happened since you last played us 2 weeks ago, because that game 2 weeks ago was viewed as kind of a get-right game for the Habs against the Leafs, where we aren't going to relitigate what happened in Montreal 2 weeks ago, but things happened. How have the Habs been doing as of late?
I am quite literally right now pulling up the record because this last little while seems like such a fever dream. It's been so up and down for them. Yeah, they lose real bad to the Avs, 7-2. Then they lose bad to the Senators, which always sucks so much. I hate losing to the Senators. So it's a 5-2 loss, but they're back in the win column. After what is this like? It's so many. It was a really rough before the Leafs, which thank you, the Leafs. They kind of didn't fix us, but helped fix us. I would say.
Best medicine in the league.
Yes, best medicine in the league. As the Habs are the best cure for if you haven't gotten your first goal yet. It's one of those. But yeah, it's been nice to see them get back, right? Like it's been nice to see against the Jets get that win, get this win, two shootouts in a row actually, which sucks, but. Yeah, their overtime versus Jets was a lot more exciting, but I'll take what I can get at this point. I'm happy. I'm happy with what I'm seeing since the last time. Okay, let me just. So scattered right now, but you talked about the shootout, so I'm gonna actually talk about that as well, relating it to kind of what's been happening with the Habs. Absolutely fake, not hockey. Completely agree, not real shootout. However. Um, I really liked Dobby's body language this entire game. Jakub Dobeš was all up in the faces of people who were too close to him for his tastes. He was all up in the faces of people who he made saves to, right? And then he seemed really psyched about the win. It was really nice to see. A Jakub Dobeš who is messing with the other team is a Jakub Dobeš who is feeling good. And that was a nice change because there was a little while there where after the Devils game, I think he really struggled, seemed to have a crisis of confidence. And Samuel Montembeault wasn't exactly inspiring confidence in us either. So there was a little while where we were all afraid that we were going to have to like either trade for a goalie or like call up Jacob Fowler, which nobody wanted to do. So it's really nice to now see Jakub Dobeš look the way he used to. He still scares me. In net, he still scares me because he makes saves with his entire body. And I think I can't remember who it was in our chat, but somebody said that the save he made with his head in that game is the most Jakub Dobeš save that he could have made. And that's about it. I really liked his rebounds today. I just want to point that out too. I thought he was very controlled with them. I know
he usually shares the Stolarz trait of nothing is able to stick to him, where it's like it could go right in his glove and it's somehow going to bounce right back out. Like exactly. It's very bizarre.
It's like a trampoline on his glove. Yeah. It just comes right back out.
It's like his body's a trampoline.
I mean, the way he moves sometimes, I'm like, but how are we doing this? But hey, it was really good to see that. I think overall that's been a story. Juraj Slafkovsky since the last time. So I just want to ask, actually, as you were talking about the game, as you were going through it, Slav's name came up a lot. What was your impression of Juraj Slafkovsky today? And I know I asked you every single game we play this, but it's because of the fact that he is evolving very quickly in front of our eyes, I think, this season. So that's why I ask.
I mean, I will say, like, there were a few outliers in this game because some of the turnovers he had or some of the bad moments I don't think are very indicative of him in general. Yeah. He just had a couple extra moments. He had a very chaotic game, which is good and bad.
Part of the course.
I will say for Slav, like, he's never gonna live up to his draft stock. But once you accept that, you realize like, oh yeah, he's still like a good player. He's just not what you want out of a first over. Like he's just like, you know what I mean? Like there are players where once you get over that, like they were talking about, I think you were posting about it too. It's like, wow, the top line looks so much better now that Slav's back on it because he's. Yep. Look, is he the most talented player in the world? No. Is he the best player in the world? No. Is he ever going to be? No. But what he is a very steady distributor for Suzuki and Caulfield and just kind of that stabilizing influence. He's never, like, even when he's not involved in the play or not necessarily being the focal point, he's still, when he seems to elevate the guys around him, if that makes sense. Like, there are some players who you don't always notice them, but you do notice that everyone else seems to play better when they're playing with him. He's one of those guys where good things happen wherever he goes, even if he's not the main guy driving a line. He's a positive contributor, and that sounds kind of demeaning in a way, like, oh, he's a positive contributor. No. But because that's underselling it. But I don't like it's a delicate balance between properly appreciating what he brings to the top line and to the top power play and like the distribution that he does possess versus overselling his contribution, because at the same time he's far from a superstar still, but he's a very steady top six piece. I wish he would. The one criticism I'll say is he needs to realize how big he is a little more. Like he needs to start throwing his weight around.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's been getting better and better. Today, it was not. He's a little inconsistent with that, but I do think he's starting to realize it. Because sometimes in the games this season, I've noticed, it's like a shift he has that it's like, he's like, oh, wait, I'm big. Like, it's this moment where he just realizes that he can simply run through a guy, right? So that's one thing I totally agree with. I think today... So he's been playing with Demidov a lot and Kapanen on the second line because they're still trying to figure out that second line. You know, that's a whatever.
Someone needs to shoot on that line.
Someone needs to shoot. Somebody needs to center that line also. Eventually at some point, but that's a later thing. So he was on that line and it was going, pretty well. I know the numbers didn't look good, but it was going relatively well. And I thought, that's some of the best hockey that Demidov played. That might have something to do with the fact that he's playing more hockey. That, there's a little bit of correlation there, but I think Marty trusts Slav at this point enough to let him have the opportunity to drive that line, and it looked pretty good. However, maybe, I don't know, maybe a coincidence, I guess, that the first line immediately took a nosedive. Statistically, became one of the worst in the league. And I think I told you this, they've been one of the best with Slav on there in the league, top 5. And as soon as they had him back, as soon as Suzuki and Caulfield had him back, it seemed like they were like, okay, now we feel comfortable again. Now, you can't... Zach Bolduc was just not doing what he needed to do on that first line. Maybe
well, so he's not good enough to be in the top 6, man. Like, he's a good player, but...
I think there's potential there, but not right now. Definitely not right now. So yeah, my main thing being is I'm really happy with the games we're getting from Slav. He's playing more consistently. I think even today the defense was a little streaky, but it's still more consistent than it used to be. It seems like he's really understanding himself as a player. He's playing more physical, maybe not today, but in general. And yeah, I'm really happy with that because I think my main thing is people would talk about that top line and be like, oh, Caulfield and Suzuki. And I was like, guys, Slav is right there. And he's a big part of why that line works. We had Josh Anderson on that line for a little while there, trying to figure out what we were going to do. So yeah, that's my main 2 things I think out of this last little while for the Habs is their goalies have seemed, or one of their goalie has seemed to figure it out. He looks a lot more confident. Love that. And second of all, Slav really seems to understand himself as a player, and it's beautiful to see. He's really stepping into his own.
Yeah, now touching on something that some of the chat are saying, with the impending return of Kirby Dach, how is he going to slot back into this lineup compared to where it was at when he got hurt?
Well, good question. I don't even remember what the lines were at that point. It feels like a million years ago. Yeah, Beer Cat says, sorry, Zach Bolduc is only in his 2nd season. There's room to grow. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I agree with that.
Still a great trade, by the way.
Buddy, he could have not scored a goal ever, and I would still think that was a great trade. So yeah, I'll take it. But yeah, where was I going with this? Doc, you asked me about Doc. So since the last time, Alex Newhook was a big part of what this team was doing very well. And then unfortunately he had, injury, long-term injury. So Kirby Dach's going to be back. Alex Newhook isn't. There's less to play around with there. I assume he'll go back on the second line. Maybe Kapanen moves to the wing. Demidov is on the wing. But at that point, who's playing defense there? Demidov has some good defense. I think he's for a rookie.
You can have a forward line that's all offense.
Exactly. For a rookie, I think he's rather responsible. I think he can grow into it. So yeah, my long answer being second line.
Well, and also as a Leafs fan, I watch William Nylander and John Tavares every night. Never play them in defensive situations. You are allowed to have an all gas, no breaks type of line. That's just, as long as you have the defensive guys in the bottom 6 to kind of take that load off of their shoulders, go crazy. Let them just be the fun line that only it's 80% offensive zone starts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Marty, before Doc got hurt, Marty was trying to play them a little bit more defensively, and I was like, brother.
Also, we'll shout out Marty St. Louis for actually using his timeout. Crazy novel idea, calling your timeout even when you're not behind at the end of the game. more coaches should probably take some notes from that one. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over now to our third segment. Just a reminder, as always, to hit like, hit subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Go subscribe to our friends over at Game Over Montreal too. Kay's okay, I guess, but the rest of them are pretty good as well. So make sure you go show some love over there, and also follow the Game Over Network on all social media platforms so you stay up to date with everything over at the network. This third segment, Leaf fans. All right, I made you sit through Habs talk. We can talk about the Leafs now because we actually do have some big things to talk about. Joseph Woll, who was Habs fans, you'll remember this from a few weeks ago, even though he got pulled, has been playing out of his mind this season. He has like a 935 or 940 save percentage so far this season. He's been spectacular, and he's been exactly what the Leafs have needed to get back on track. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the Hurricanes game, which, by the way, I didn't do a show after that Hurricanes game. Holy, the Leafs actually were playing out of their mind. Like, the Leafs randomly this week decided that they're good again. 3-game win streak.
Yeah.
After that Habs loss, they won 4 or 5 on that road trip. 3-game win streak. They beat the Panthers.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, I guess. You needed to light a fire under our asses, I guess. But Joseph Woll, injured, retroactively placed on injured reserve. Luckily, for the first time under Berube, we actually got some explanation over what the injury, well, not the injury is, but what the timeline is. It sounds like Joseph Woll's only going to miss a week, which, holy thank the Lord, baby Jesus, because I would have, if Woll was out for an extended period of time, I'd love Dennis Hildeby. Hildeby's been very solid so far. There's only so many goaltending injuries that you can endure. We were a Dennis Hildeby injury away from relying on Artur Akhtiamov, who's never played in the NHL before. He's only played a handful of games in the AHL. He came over from Russia last year, so not something that you want. You don't want to force a rookie in when you don't need to. So thank God Woll's going to be okay. But we do actually have to mention the Leafs, like I said, have been playing kind of good as of late. Wow. And a lot of that has to do with the bottom 6 actually being good. And I do have to say, David, I think, mentioned this right off the top of the show before we went live, saying that he hopes that Berube will go nuclear with the bottom 3 lines because they only scored 1 goal in regulation. And my challenge to you is, have you watched the last week? Because the bottom 6 has been unbelievable. Now, they broke up this line tonight because the second line of Cowan, Tavares, and Nylander has had a couple of not great games. But Joshua, Waugh, and McMahon has been such a revelation of a third line. Ever since Joshua got scratched and came back in the lineup, that third line has been absolutely unreal. That line is responsible for the Leafs scoring on the first shot. 2 of the 4 games that they went on that random streak, scoring on the first shot of the game.
I'm so glad that didn't happen today.
That would have been hilarious if they did it again. That would have been, 5 in a row would have been extreme. 4 in a row was already crazy, but
it would have been very funny against somebody else. But
what?
Yeah, Trinka says the reason why I was laughing, by the way, as you were talking, is like because you said Joshua Waugh, and I was thinking our Joshua Waugh is also.
Trinka chiming in too bad Joshua Waugh isn't playing for the Habs right now. Yeah. So
very confusing, but that line was great. Berube was putting them out there against matchups that you'd think he wouldn't want at home, but they were holding their own very well.
Well, and part of the thing that's helped the Leafs so much in this recent stretch is that line has not only been a revelation, but they've been eating all the defensive zone starts. And this goes back to something Brad Treliving said when they acquired Nick Waugh, which... it's still weird to think that they got Nick Waugh for Mitch Marner in a trade. Like, that was very bizarre situation. Like, if you had told me 2 years ago the Leafs are going to trade Mitch Marner for Nick Waugh, I would have been like, what are you talking about? But regardless, Nick Waugh, the idea was that, and Brad Treliving said this in the offseason, this guy is going to eat all of the defensive zone jobs. We're going to bury him out there, but that's going to free up the guys in the top 6 to take more of the offensive zone starts. To start the season, that was not the case. Matthews was still getting buried with like 60% D-zone starts, which was atrocious.
It's a crazy decision. Well,
it's because Berube thinks he's Ryan O'Reilly for some reason. And that's a whole different conversation that I'm not going to get into again. But now, in the last 2 weeks, this Waugh, Joshua, and McMahon line, they've been getting buried. I think it was against Florida that they had 80% D-zone starts, and every time it was the same formula. Nick Waugh has been fantastic in the dot this season. He's up near 60% of his draws, and it would win a faceoff, dump it out into the neutral zone, win a battle, get the puck in the O-zone, cycle, get a chance. And that line has been doing that routinely for the last couple of weeks. They've been fantastic. The fourth line of Lawton, Lorentz, and Robertson has also been very solid, but the benefit of having that wall line, as I said, eating those D-zone starts, is Matthews has been getting a lot more offensive zone starts. Now, is Matthews capitalizing on all those? Not necessarily. I know Anthony Petrielli put out the tweet from the first period, the first power play of the game, where Matthews, like on a weird kind of turnover play, gets the puck heading downhill at the left dot. And 2 years ago, that is an automatic goal. Austin Matthews heading downhill, curl and drag, easy money. And Matthews not only passed up on the shot, but he went to his backhand and actually passed the puck in general, which I don't know what, like maybe he's hurt. I don't know. But the fact
if you're Austin Matthews, you should not be passing.
That is exact. I don't know what Berube has been feeding this guy messaging wise, because there's been a whole dialogue about William Nylander and Craig Berube's relationship, because Nylander is very much the type of guy to be like, yeah, I'll buy in, but I'm also going to keep doing my own thing. Whereas Matthews will legitimately, like, he will buy into whatever system, and Berube wants him to play more defensive, more, I don't want to say team-oriented, because it's not like he wasn't team-oriented before, but he definitely take less offensive risks. And we've seen Matthews play a lot more passively offensively in the past couple of seasons. The fact that he passed up on that shot, though, I was like, that's criminal. There's like, I'm never like, we're never going to see 60-goal Austin again, and I'm still coping with that, but is what it is. So that was disappointing. However, the Matthews line still has been generating a ton of chances. Matthew Knies has been hit or miss at times this season, but his point production has been off the charts. He's producing at like a 95-point pace, which is insane. And so the top line, Domi is Domi, but he fits I had this conversation with the Toronto chat the other day, where Max Domi, like, you either have to put him with Matthews or you have to scratch him, because he doesn't fit anywhere else. At least he looks for Austin and will pass the puck. He does one thing well. He holds the puck and makes good passes, I guess.
Yeah, you'll take what you can get there.
So it's definitely been a lot better for the Leafs as of late. This game notwithstanding, that second period was still a joke, but in general, I am feeling a lot better about the Leafs going forward than I did 2 weeks ago after that travesty of a game. Luke in the chat saying Wool is going to be okay this time, but how long is he going to be okay for? I'm moderately certain we are going to be playing Hildeby out of necessity more than just this time throughout the season. Considering we have no idea when Stolarz is coming back. Stolar's career might be over for all I know, because he still isn't skating, and we never are going to get an injury update on him. So I see that, like Matthew's saying, we'll have a 3-goalie rotation with Hildeby going back and forth. Honestly, like Stolarz when he comes back, Wool when he comes back, neither of them are going to stay healthy regardless. So you're going to need Hildeby throughout the season, and considering how bad Caden Primo was at the start of the year, I'm shocked they didn't just use Hildeby from the big get-go. They knew what they had in Hildeby, and they still chose Primo over him. So
I think that's the temptation with Primo. You don't know what you have until you've had him. Because a lot of, it's his numbers in the AHL look great. But just a quick question. Something that you mentioned to me was that you feel like the Leafs have been playing a little bit more physical. And they've been kind of imposing their will in that way. Have you seen that shift? Like, do you think that particular line, the Joshua Law and McMahon. Who else is on that line? McMahon. Do you think it's a specific line driving that kind of play, or have you seen this buy-in in the entire team?
I've seen the buy-in more throughout the lineup, but it's definitely the third line that's been driving it. Although I will note that Matthew Knies also has this mode where he can just turn into a tank sometimes. There was the Habs fans that I would advise you to go look up this clip and just blast Slavkovsky with this messaging, because Matthew Knies' goal against the Canes the other night, where he just absolutely shakes off Gostisbehere and then runs over Aho while getting a breakaway and then burying that is the most aggressive using your size to your advantage that I've ever seen. Like, Matthew Knies, just when he wants to, it's the old meme, like, just run through a motherfucker's face. Like, Matt Knies he has that mode. Dakota Joshua, since coming back from being a healthy scratch, has been a lot more physical, and I've just noticed that the Leafs it's not so much that they're playing more physical and like they're laying bigger hits, it's just that they're winning more battles. They're like, the way that they're getting in on the forecheck is a lot more aggressive. But also, as Matthew points out, Nick Robertson is our biggest hitter. He throws himself at everyone he can. There was the play against Florida on Monday where Nick Robertson, just pure hustle and effort, outmuscles Forsling on the boards and forces a turnover that leads to a goal. It's not about size. It's not about being able to run someone over. It's just about effort. And the Leafs have been showing a lot more effort. Digging it. For as much as I push back against the, you just have to dig in and win more battles narrative that Berube's been peddling, for as much as that isn't...
Sometimes you do have to dig in.
Sometimes you do. Yeah, exactly. For as much as that is not a general strategy to win games, sometimes when you're not trying, it is a strategy that you need to employ. So I will say that. I also want to say, Andrew in the chat saying, taking away what makes a player special to have him play 200 feet is the dumbest take that NHL coaches or rake that NHL coaches can't stop stepping on. And as a Habs fan, happy that Matthews is now a two-way forward. The funniest part about the Matthews discourse, Matthews has never been bad defensively. In fact, Matthews, under Sheldon Keefe, Matthews was like top 10 in Selke voting multiple times. His 69 goal season, he was like 6th in Selke voting, which, by the way, scoring 69 goals, being 6th in Selke voting, and not even being in the top 3 of the Hart voting was a criminal that season. Like, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I know McKinnon had like a billion points that year, but that was criminal as well. It's just remember, and Black Wolf saying, remember when the Capitals made Ovechkin a 30-goal player? Amazing head coaches think that this is a winning strategy with a goal scorer. Man, I got no answers. Berube is a dinosaur, and dinosaurs don't think very forward. So I'm sure the next Leafs head coach will unlock at least 50-goal Matthews again, because at some point you just got to tell your former 60 goal scorer and just say, hey, what if you do that again? And I trust you enough defensively, but
what if you simply did that again?
What if you simply score 60 goals? Because it's not, and I know the casuals online are quick to point out, he doesn't have Marner anymore. That's why. But he didn't even have Marner for half of that 69 goal season. He was playing with Domi, and even Domi was getting this guy like near 70 goals. So it's not a talent issue. It's not a personnel issue. It is purely a coaching issue at this point. And I will despise Craig Berube forever. But regardless, I'm now going to turn us over to our fourth and final segment. This is the part of the show where we invite your questions. So, as always, whether you have Leafs questions, Habs questions, Olympic questions, or any hockey or non-hockey related questions, this is the time to post them in the chat. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that, and we'll be sure to answer as many of those as possible. And always just a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto, subscribe to Game Over Montreal, and make sure you go follow us on social media as well. You can find me on Twitter and Bluesky at Zach Payne 41. Kay, where can the people find you? I think it's like line composition or something on Bluesky.
It's line composition on Bluesky, and it's K_IMW on Twitter. I am trying to be less online, but I am generally pretty online. So if you ever want to chat, get me there.
Tragically, chronically online.
Unfortunately.
Luke saying the biggest issue I see with Berube is that he won the cup with a team that was in a worse position than the Leafs are in now. That might just cloud his vision. You know, this is a weird thing to say. Berube took the wrong lessons from that Blues cup. The Blues team that he won the cup with was a possession-based team that had the puck all the time, and now he's like, hey, what if we never have the puck? Like, what?
What? Yeah.
How is that the conclusion that you came to after what? I mean, I get that winning kind of reinforces any biases that you might have, but man, just bizarre. Joseph James in the chat saying, first of all, it's Lauren, not Laura. And we had some network things going on this fall. We're hoping to have everything restarted by January 1st. I should maybe have checked if that's accurate or not, but the goal is to have the whole network up and running the way it was last year by January 1st. So in the new year. So just a little bit of patience. Hopefully we'll get Dom back too. We'll see. But to be determined on that front. All right, come on, guys. We need some. I know you guys have questions. You guys are typing in the chat, but there's not questions being asked here. So make sure you get your questions in there as well. I did see one comment, though, that I will ask you about here, Kay, is I know Matt said that he didn't notice Suzuki tonight, but I disagree with that. However, he does say not good for his Team Canada bid. How are you feeling about Suzuki's chances to make the Team Canada roster?
Pretty good. A lot better than I was to start the season. I think Nick Suzuki, first of all, he's been forced to play the penalty kill because Nick Suzuki has been forced to play 50 minutes a night some nights.
There's the Matthews conundrum too, where it's like, why is he on the penalty kill?
Literally, but like I feel really good about it. I think he's been consistent. I think he's shown some offensive or some defensive. Nick Suzuki's always been a good defensive player, but I think this year and last year he put it together with offense and defense together, and we're seeing a lot of that. I think you've seen Cole Caulfield even starting to be on the radar for possibilities for Team USA. I don't think they'll do it because they're stupid. And don't get me wrong, Team Canada is stupid too, but the Team USA, I don't know. Anyways, that's another thing. But when you have three guys with one for sure going to the Olympics, to be fair, Slovakia, but still, and then you have Nick Suzuki.
Yeah, it's an asterisk because the country sucks.
It's but he's top of his country. So when you have a line that has three guys that have two of them have a real possibility of going, a third who's on the radar, says something really good. And I hate to base my opinion based on what the insiders and the reporters are reporting, but very often these guys have a very good they love kissing ass in the background of these guys who can tell them these things. Yep. So all reports seem to be pointing towards a lot of people predicting Nick Suzuki on their Olympic roster. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, the insiders are they don't even try to hide that they just carry water for anyone that especially the agents. Dreger's the worst for just literally. It's all exactly what the agents are thinking based on what Dreger tweets, but yeah, Suzuki should definitely make it. He's kind of I kind of view Suzuki as the younger version of Tavares, where he's just so solid at every aspect of play that he's good at everything, great at a couple, but good at everything to where why would you not want him there just to be kind of that stabilizing influence? As for Caulfield, Team USA did scratch Kyle Connor in the Four Nations final, so I wouldn't have a ton of faith that they would bring. Honestly, I think they have a thing against Caulfield for his height. Genuinely, I think they're anti-short king.
I think they are generally anti-short king for a lot of different players. So I'm not shocked. I feel bad, but I'm not shocked. Speaking of the Olympics, I am a little bit. I'm not sure how you feel about this. There's a lot of injuries that have been happening around the league. The condensed schedule seems to be really hard on these guys. Mm-hmm. I'm a little scared, I'll be honest, with the Olympics and the wear and tear on these guys. I know Matthews is going. Do you have any concerns about that, especially with the way his season's been going?
No, because I don't think he missed a couple of games with that. We think it was a groin injury after Zadorov sent him headfirst into the boards. By the way, no penalty on that play. But my problems with Matthews' play have nothing to do with his health anymore. It's entirely to do with how he's being deployed. So he could go play at the Olympics. He'll be fine. Same with Nylander. Nylander's going to go be one of the top players for Sweden, and he'll do his thing. No one else on the team is going to be on any Olympic roster. So it's just those two. But that being said, if Matthews were to maybe sprain an ankle right before the Olympics, I wouldn't be opposed to him just getting 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I know there were some Leaf fans kind of bringing up that, does Tavares have a shot at Team Canada? I hope not, because man, I want that old man to rest. He needs to just not be anywhere near the that Olympic roster just so that he can chillax for a couple of weeks. Okay, Digital saying, are you guys enjoying watching each of your teams, or is it all pain right now? I'll let you go first on that.
This team has been really up and down. I think that's where the pain comes in. But I think the joy comes from the fact that even when the pain happens, it's from things that aren't long term. So I'm mostly enjoying watching this team. I think even, for example, there's a lot of good things to pick up on. I'm really enjoying watching Yuri Slafkovsky in general. I'm really enjoying watching Demidov. You know, his growth as a player. He's taking some time to warm up, but it's getting better for him. And as per always, I enjoy watching Nick Suzuki play hockey because he's such a good. He's. It's really good that he has Cole Caulfield on his line because otherwise, I think a lot of the underrated plays that he makes, because they wouldn't always turn into goals the way Cole Caulfield can make them be like flashy goals, you know what I mean? Like I think Cole scores some really sick goals that like put Nick on the anyways. Point being, I'm enjoying the team, but they were ruining my life for a little bit there. I will be honest. I was crashing out for a little bit there. But isn't that sports?
Yeah, as for the Leafs side, the Leafs, Craig Berube has turned the Leafs into the Barry Trotz Islanders to where they are very boring. And when they win, it's fine because you can tolerate being boring if you win. When they lose, they always lose ugly as a result. And not in like ugly in the sense that it's like, oh, they lost like 4-0, 5-0 every night. It's just, no, when you lose and it's boring, it's miserable. So when the Leafs go on a 4-game losing streak, it is the worst experience on earth. When they go on a 3-game win streak like they did this week, it's like, okay. But
yeah, no, I think I think that's also something just to point out is even when they're losing, even when the Habs are losing, they're still playing like fun enough hockey. Even when their power plays and producing, they're doing some pretty stuff with it. So hey,
the one thing I will say though is I can't argue with the results. The Leafs won the division last year. They made it to the second round, which is something they only did once in the previous 9 years before that, and they made it to Game 7, which is something they didn't do the last time in the second round. So they did technically have their most successful season of this era playing this style of hockey. So I can't really argue with that, and I will maintain that the Leafs would have run over Carolina if they didn't shit their pants in Game 7 against Florida. So,
and isn't that how it goes?
It's always how it goes. They were the second best team in the East, and they happened to run into the Panthers, who were just so far above anything that's, yeah. I saw something up here. Any thoughts? There was a lot of thoughts on the Olympics, but we'll just settle on this one. Any thoughts on the rumblings that the arena for the Olympics doesn't seem to be ready?
My thoughts are I don't think the NHLPA is going to let it happen that the players don't go. They'll figure out a way, I think, is my thoughts on it. It's a little scary, of course.
It's weird.
But like, it's weird. Why are we doing this? How did this happen? But you also, like, earlier this week, I think, you have, like, Nathan McKinnon saying, I don't give a fuck, right? Like, these guys don't care. They'll figure it out. They'd rather just go. But it is weird. And I am a little bit like, oof, what's happening here? Did you guys not know that you were going to play hockey
my biggest question is how on earth did you mess up the size of the rink?
Which is crazy.
You couldn't have gotten the NHL to send over some measurements? Like, were you just eyeballing it? How do you mess that up?
I'm just picturing a guy standing at the rafters going,
it's roughly, yeah. That is, like, insane, like, how they managed to screw that up. But we'll see what happens. I know the NHLPA only cares about the quality of the ice. They don't really care about the size. But if the rink is too small, obviously it's going to be a problem. Every game's going to be 1-0. But
yeah,
we'll see, man. We will see. What else do we got here? That is hilariously incompetent. I'd laugh more, but I work at a job site where they didn't measure the right length for safety flags 2 times in the same spot. Okay, so people are just inherent. Like, I guess these guys are just inherently. There's not much going on up there, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe
I saw a question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, it's gonna. I think Just Matthew asked, "Do you sit Domi and try Michelli on the Michelli on the top line?"
Mattias Michelli. Get the little Italian.
Shut up.
I would absolutely try him. Michelli's kind of got the same problem that Domi does, where you kind of either have to play him on the top line at this point, or you have to scratch him. But Berube has... I mean, both of them suck. Exile both Domi and Michelli, because they both stink, and get someone else in here. But Berube openly hates Michelli, which is funny because at least Michelli is at least competent-ish defensively, whereas Domi is just an idiot and also takes bad penalties. But Michelli, like, Berube doesn't like Michelli, and he was very vocal about the fact that he's like, yeah, I gave this guy a shot, and he's just not my kind of player. So Tree Living's gonna have to trade him. We'll see what they'll be able to recoup for him, but both Michelli, Yarncroke also exists and has just been exiled at this point. I wouldn't mind getting Yarncroke back in for a game every now and again, but yeah, send them. It's weird because Michelli was so good with it was Lawson Krause and was it Dvorak back there in Arizona when they were that line? He was so good with those guys, and you would think that, okay, so you could play him with guys like Joshua and Waugh, who are bigger guys that go to the net, get into positions to just tap in pucks and shoot one-timers, and it didn't work. The fit just wasn't there. So then you try him with Matthews, and again, the idea is, well, here's this crazy playmaker, he can get into the goal scorer, and it just didn't really work. Michelli, he doesn't seem to have the confidence to try some of these crazier passes anymore. So even when he gets into the lineup, it's the old Sheldon Keefe and Jimmy Vesey clip from that Amazon doc is just very vanilla. So
yeah, if it helps, Christian Dvorak also had something similar where it was like, oh, this guy's good, and then he came to Montreal, and it was like, okay, well, never mind, I guess. Get it.
Luke said Berube would send Michelli to the moon, but Lalonde stole it for. And for those of you who don't get that reference, it's because Derek Lalonde looks like Gru from Despicable Me.
That's very good. I'm also not sure if you saw, but Luke says, I live in a state where they ordered new trains and then they found out they didn't fit in the tunnels.
You manage to do that? I don't understand.
Yeah, so generally incompetence seems to be the name of the game, I think.
Oh my lord, it's baffling, man. Simple thing, like everyone's like, "Oh, here's a cool idea," and then they don't check how to make it possible. I guess, like, does everyone just suck at math?
I'm the ideas guy. I have no idea with the math. Yeah.
That's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. So, with that being said, I think that's where we're gonna wrap this show up. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. Kay, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap here?
Sure. First of all, thanks everybody for tuning in. I am always on Game Over Montreal, and we're doing our best. And also, I just wanted to take this time to say something. I don't want to get too far into it, so I'm not going to, but I do want to just say, that if you are someone who is a survivor of sexual violence or has dealt with something similar, just know that, like, you're believed. I believe you. It's hard for us out here. It's very, hockey's a hard sport to love sometimes, I think, because you give so much of yourself into it, and it's not always you don't always feel very welcome. But just know that, like, a place like Game Over, my DMs aren't working on Twitter, but my DMs on Bluesky are always open to talk. I'm always, down to support people. Yeah, believe survivors, and watch out for each other. And if you need a break from hockey, take it. It's fine. It'll be there when you're back. It's not going anywhere. Trust me.
As much as Gary Bettman will try his best, but it's unfortunately it will not go anywhere.
Yeah, it will not go anywhere.
Despite how poorly they market this damn sport. So, yeah. As I said, make sure you follow us on social medias. You can find me at Zach Payne 41. You can find Kay at Line Composition on Bluesky and K_IMW on Twitter.
Yes, correct.
See, I have a memory. And also follow...
You remember better than I do. You remember mine is than I do.
And then follow the Game Over Network on social medias as well. Subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Subscribe to Game Over Montreal. We will see you guys next time for each respective game back on our regular channels. Well, I guess this is my regular channel, but for Montreal, you'll be back on your regular channel. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Bye.